Hello, BookTube. I have some new arrivals for you. Been a while since I did that. I want you as informed as you possibly can be when you go into your new bookstore and look at the new release tables. I want you to go in forearmed, forewarned, so that if there's something coming out, these are all, I have 6 hardcovers to show you, so it's not exactly cheap. Buying all 6 of these hardcovers, we'll do the math at the end and see what it would cost you, but it'd be expensive. But I haven't read any of them, and they might, one or two of them might be of such interest to you that you're willing to bite the bullet. Let's look at these. They range all over the place in terms of subject matter, and we'll just learn about them together. So the first one is a murder mystery set in the American South. I've been loving murder mysteries. This comes out, I think all of these are March releases. This comes out in March. The date on it is March the 10th. And this is by Christy Doherty, and it's called Revolver Road. Very nice cover there, very evocative cover. Through the eyes of her main character, Harper McLean, author Christy Doherty returns to a life she once led. First in her gripping debut, The Echo Killing, then in last year's A Beautiful Corpse, and now again in Revolver Road. So this is the author's 3rd book. By drawing on her own experiences, Doherty delivers another chilling thriller in her Harper McLean mystery series that showcases her unique knowledge of what it's like being a crime reporter in Savannah, Georgia, and her expert familiarity with the setting. Even in the chill of February, no place touches Harper McLean's heart like Savannah. She should be walking beneath the historic city's towering oaks, surrounded by graceful mansions. Instead, she's hiding miles away in Tybee Island after a mysterious voice on the phone warned her that someone wanted her dead. The call was too specific to ignore. The caller knew everything about her, but that was months ago, and she's getting tired of being scared. Her only escape is her work at the newspaper, where the hottest story in town is the disappearance of Xavier Rain. The singer had a hit album on his hands and was about to go on tour, but then he walked out of his beachfront home and vanished. The police believe he drowned, but Harper suspects his disappearance may be more ominous than that. Something doesn't feel right about it. So, and in the classic murder mystery gimmick, we don't know if it's true here, I haven't read this, but the classic murder mystery gimmick would have those two things connected somehow. The threatening call and the disappearance of this rock star, that somehow they would be connected at the end of the book. We shall see. Sometimes contemporary murder mysteries just don't bother to do that. They have legitimately 2 separate storylines. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too many Golden Age murder mysteries, but something about that seems a little disappointing. We shall see with this. I have not read any of the other books in this series, and I'm just gonna dive into this one, and I'm gonna let it worry about whether or not I need to know all those things about the author. This next one is historical fiction. I think we saw the advance copy of this, but just in case, and also there'll be new people, so this is also a March release. Yes, March the 10th again. This is The Operator by Gretchen Berg. I don't know if you can make it out here, but this is an absolutely lovely hardcover. Just absolutely lovely. So what have we got here? This is Gretchen Berg's debut novel. And let's see here. No one knows. It's set in 1950s small town America, hence the rotary phone. A lot of you might even know what that is. That was the dial of a rotary phone. Once upon a time, we had rotary phones that were attached to the wall in the kitchen. There was only one in the whole house. Anyway, no one knows the people of Wooster, Ohio better than Vivian Dalton, and she'd be the first to tell you that. She calls it intuition. Her teenage daughter Charlotte calls it eavesdropping. She and other women who work at Ohio Bell aren't supposed to listen in on conversations, but they do, and all have opinions on what they hear, especially Vivian. One cold December night, she listens in on a call between that snob Betty Miller and someone whose voice she can't quite place, and hears something shocking. Betty's mystery friend has news that, if true, will shatter Vivian's tidy life, humiliating her and making her the laughingstock of the town. A determined search for truth takes Vivian out of her comfort zone in the first step of many that will ultimately bring meaningful transformation to her life. Meanwhile, Vivian's aren't the only secrets that come spilling into the open. Through a series of explosive events, including a shocking case of embezzlement, skeletons come tumbling out of the closet, even for some of Worcester's most prominent residents, in plot twists that unfold like an uncanny game of telephone. It reminds you of the maxim that you hear often in, for instance, the novels of Anthony Trollope. In the Victorian era, just in general, you hear it over and over again. People say that eavesdroppers never hear what they want. They're always sorry that they eavesdrop. Okay, great. So what do we know about Gretchen Berg? This is her debut novel. Good for her. She was born on the East Coast, raised in the Midwest, Amazing. What a combo. And spent a number of years in the Pacific Northwest. She's taught English in South Korea and in North Iraq and has traveled all the other continents. She's been to Australia. What a show off. A graduate of Iowa State University. Oh my God. she graduated from Iowa State University. Okay, she was born on the East Coast. She was raised in the Midwest. Graduated from the Iowa State University. She has a debut novel here, and another interesting fact about her, she's not, in fact, me. Okay. She lives in Chicago, Illinois, and this is her first novel. Fantastic. Okay, well, it sounds great, and it comes out in March. All these things, I think, are March. I'll be getting to all of them as soon as I finish off the last bitter few remnants of February. I'll be getting to them. Amazing. All right. Then this next one is huge. It's a chunker. Is it actually a chunker? I don't think so. I think it comes well shy. Yeah, it's 600 pages. So it doesn't count as an 800-page chunkster for charity for Alan Moreton's Chunksters for Charity Challenge. Although it's only 200 pages between friends, you could read this thing and still donate to Book Aid International. Okay, this comes out on the last day of March, March 31st, and this is The Woman of 1,000 Names by Alexandra Lapierre. Big, sumptuous historical novel. A rich, sweeping novel set during the Russian Revolution that follows a beautiful aristocrat fighting for survival after the banishment of her lover, and the long journey she must take to escape the dangers of a changing world. This is the type of meticulously researched historical fiction readers are craving, with a protagonist based on Baroness Marie Budberg, also known as the Mata Hari of Russia. Born into Russian aristocracy, wealth, and security, Moura, that is the name of our protagonist, M-O-U-R-A, never had a reason to worry. However, in the Bolshevik Revolution's upheaval, her world crumbles and she is at the mercy of the harsh, freezing city of Petrograd. As Vladimir Lenin's ruthless police are persecuting her family and friends, she falls into a passionate affair with a British Secret Service secret agent, Sir Robert Bruce Lockhart. When he's abruptly and mysteriously deported from Russia, Moura is left alone and vulnerable. Now she must find new paths for her survival, even if it means shedding her past and taking on new identities, hence the title. Some will praise her tenderness and undying loyalty. Others will denounce her lies. Nevertheless, all will agree on one point. Moura embodies life with a capital L. Life at all cost. And this is set against the volatile landscape of 20th century Russia. So who is the author? Bet you're interested. I certainly am. Alexandra Lapierre is a best-selling French novelist, short story writer, and biographer. She graduated from the Sorbonne and the University of Southern California, and her works have been published in more than 20 countries. And she lives in Paris. So, the very end of March, an opulent, historic, Russian historical novel. I'm going to make the date nice and visible here. Okay, so that was 3 fiction. Let's do some nonfiction. So the next one is nonfiction. This is from Penn State University. I don't think I have a pub sheet for this thing. No, I don't. But we'll just read it straight from the book. This is by Marty Cohen, and it is Moral Victories in the Battle for Congress, Cultural Conservatism, and the House GOP. And there is the Capitol building with a cross superimposed on it. So I think we can guess what we're going to get here. While Christian conservatives had been active in national politics for decades and had achieved a seat at the table by working with the Republican Party, in the 1980s and 90s they made significant strides by injecting issues of moral traditionalism into U.S. House races across the country. Christian conservative activists worked diligently to nominate friendly candidates and get them elected. These victories transformed the Republican House delegation into one that was much more culturally conservative and created a new Republican majority. In this book, the author chronicles this significant political phenomenon and traces it in both its historical and theoretical context. This is a story not only of the growing importance of moral issues, but also of the way party coalitions change, and how this particular change began with a religiously motivated activist determined to ban abortion, thwart gay rights, and restore traditional morality to the country. So, an explosive subject, and one that we have seen before. Power worshippers, losing faith in God. There have been a number of studies of the power of the evangelical vote in the United States electoral system and the United States society, trying to bring about a world that fits with a fundamentalist, extremely conservative, religious Christian viewpoint. in which women are housewives and stay at home. They have no rights. They can't work. They certainly can't out-earn their husband. Their husband gets to take their money. In which gay people are abominations in the sight of the Lord. The extension, as far as there's any kind of scriptural backing for any of these things, there's also scriptural backing for hewers of wood and toters of water. There's scriptural backing for white on black racism, and for slavery, of course. For slavery, slavery is all over the Old Testament and all over the New Testament, with not a single word said against it anywhere, including by the incarnation of God. So, and that's the thing that fundamentalist Christians in this country tend to forget, or maybe they remember it and just make a point of not mentioning it when they're doing their publicity rounds, is that if you are 100% whole hog in favor of a fundamentalist reading of X and Y, then you have to be in favor of Z. You can't pick and choose. If you're saying God dictates your position, well, okay, the Bible hates homosexuals. The Bible hates women. The Bible also endorses slavery and expects you to have slaves and teaches you how to use them and how to abuse them, in the New Testament and the Old Testament. And that was in, for instance, the Confederacy and the South here in America forever and ever. The justification for slavery was not just traditional, but religious. And this is yet another. This is the latest in a line of books so far in 2020, and the year is still young. I hasten to remind you, despite the avalanche of books that we have seen on this channel, the year is still young. But this is the latest will be the latest in a long line of books that are coming out soon about the power of fundamentalist conservative Christian evangelicalism on American politics. Hence the cover. I think that's just fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. No matter where you stand on the spectrum, I think that's fascinating. Then we'll do another work of history. I think we saw this already. I think we saw the advanced copy of this. This is the big finished copy. I have not got to the advanced copy, but this is a March book, so I think, yeah, this is March 17th. So this is, I have a small excuse. I have been buried in February. But I want to get to this because this looks really good. This is The Great State, China and the World by Timothy Brooke. This is the finished copy, which comes out at the end of March, near the end of March. Viewed as a 21st century superpower, China is in fact one of the oldest states in the world. Yet despite its own official version of its past, the fundamental principles guiding the Chinese state today were not established in the late 3rd century BCE at the launch of its long string of dynasties, says world-renowned historian Timothy Brooke. Rather, China as we know it began to take form in the 13th century CE, when it was absorbed into the Mongol world. The Mongol occupation had a profound impact, Brooke says, shifting China from the older dynastic model to a form that he calls the Great State. Without understanding this shift, we lack a key tool in understanding China today. That shift was actually part of a couple of big histories a few years ago that I had the very great joy of reviewing for a venue on the other side of the world. I'll have to remember to find those reviews and put them for your perusal. In this book, the author digs deeply into China's history to craft a lively account of how China has been in the world since the 13th century and what that has meant for the world and for China. The book does not attempt to elucidate grand themes, but rather a series of 13 moments across 7 centuries that reflect significant facets of the historical relationship between China and the world. I want to give readers a chance to see what has happened in particular, concrete situations, before asking you to think about China's relationship in the world today, the author says. China has never not been part of the world, either in the past or in our own day. Okay, great. Fantastic. I don't know what to make of it. Of course, China now. China is in the news now every day, but not for its grand and incredible history, and not for its great literature, certainly, which would interest us here on BookTube, and not for any of those 7 great political moments in history. It's in the news now because of COVID-19, because of the coronavirus, and the mounting suspicion that the Chinese government and its penchant for secrecy has seriously harmed the rest of the world. That this one nation has seriously harmed all other nations by hiding the facts about this outbreak at an early stage in which knowing those facts could have helped a lot. You see in miniature, you see the same kind of state apparatus move into effect right away, immediately after the Chernobyl disaster in Russia, where a state that is totally geared around suppression of information, punishment of dissent, and especially discouragement of outside intervention, locked down on Chernobyl, and so that crucial information about how bad it was didn't get out in time. And there are mounting suspicions now that the same thing is happening here. The Chinese government's response to what quickly became a massively uncontrolled disease outbreak in Wuhan province should have been to call in international aid. Right? It should have been the Chinese government's responsible reaction to that should have been to have Doctors Without Borders and 6 other international agencies in there with boots on the ground in hazmat suits a week later to understand it, contain it, quarantine it. Instead, that didn't happen. Nothing like that happened. And now this thing is everywhere and getting worse. So that is what China's in the news now for that. This will be a corrective to that. So who is the author? We're told that he's world famous. Boy, that could help his book, now that I think about it, in a ghoulish kind of way. The timing that no one could have foreseen could help this. Timothy Brook is a professor and writer on Chinese and world history at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. He's a native of Toronto and a graduate of the University of Toronto. And he moved from Toronto to become the principal of St. John's College at UBC in 2004, where he was named the Republic of China chair. Okay, he's held positions everywhere else too, so he's well known. He has the bona fides. Fascinating. I wonder what the current state of world affairs what effect that might have on this book. Who knows what that'll be like by the time the date for this is March 17th. A lot of times this is Harper. A lot of times those dates are just projected, and if a bookstore gets this, they'll just put it out. Bookstores tend to look in their receiving room. They tend to look for actually embargoed titles. So books where you're not allowed to put it out beyond a certain point, and where diligent publishers will send people into bookstores in New York, and Los Angeles, to make sure that the book isn't out and to notify if it is, so that bookstore will be penalized. But most books, 99%, aren't like that. They come with a date, but that date is, if the bookstore gets this on the 10th, they'll put it out on the 10th or as soon afterwards as they have staff. Most bookstores don't have staff anymore, so but I don't know if it's quarantine, but I wonder what the world would be like in what that is. That's 2 weeks from now. What will that be like? Oh my. Part of me shudders to think about it. And then we'll have this last one. We'll go back to fiction. We'll end on a nice carefree note of deadly smuggling. This is also a March release, I believe. Yes, March the 3rd. And some of you will know this author's name. Some of you have read his work. no matter what it said on the cover of the book, some of you have read his work. This is Stop at Nothing, a novel by Michael Ledwidge, who was for a long time James Patterson's collaborator. And James Patterson gives this a great cover blurb, calls it flawless. And it is a Patterson-style thriller. So let's see what we have here. This comes out in early March. This will be in your bookstores right away. As a decades-long James Patterson writing partner, Michael Ledwidge is a pro at writing pacey, in-the-moment prose, tightly choreographed action set pieces, a very tough thing to do, and I've noticed that in the books that he writes with Patterson, they're done really well. And plot twists that drop at exactly the right moment. With Stop at Nothing, all those skills are on display with the launch of an unstoppable, gripping new thriller series. So this is the first book in a series by a proven quantity. If you've been reading James Patterson, if you've read him for those 10 years, you have almost certainly read this author's work. When a Gulfstream jet goes down in the Bahamas carrying a fortune in cash and ill-gotten diamonds, expat diving instructor Michael Gannon is the only person on the scene. Assuming himself the beneficiary of a drug deal gone bad, Gannon thinks he's home free with a sudden windfall until he realizes he forgot to ask one simple question. Who were the 6 dead men on the plane? And if you've seen A Simple Plan or read A Simple Plan by Scott Smith, you know there's no such thing as a drug payday that falls out of the sky. There's no such thing. They're coming looking for their money. They're coming looking for their drugs. And they also want to look for the people who might know anything about it to get rid of them. So this guy is going to have, it's got the James Patterson look. It's got the James Patterson type title. And for all I know, it could be the same kind of James Patterson, absolutely guilt-free, fun read. And I know that some of you who are maybe new to this channel and who saw me earlier today talk about a work of ancient Roman history may think it's a little strange for me to say, but nevertheless, as I always say, I'm not responsible for your literary snobbery. You are. So I will add to all that I just said about this book. Don't we need more books like that? Really? Don't we? I mean, we talk on BookTube all the time about so-called palate cleansers. And all of us have different kinds of palate cleansers that we go to. I myself love Regency romances. Some of you go to cozy murder mysteries. When you need a break, you're not going to read only that. I hope you're not going to read only that. You're not going to only skim the frosting off the cake and live on the frosting. You're not only going to have dessert. But all of us need palate cleansers now and again. A change of pace that we know is reliable, something we know is low stakes and enjoyable, but that is still reading. We still want to have our nose in a book. so you'll have Regency romances. I have Regency romances. I have Star Trek fiction. Some people have cozy murder mysteries or police procedural crime thrillers. David Murphy has Milton Friedman. Takes all types. You know what I mean. We need more of those. The world needs more of those. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So here you go. Here is the start of the latest series and what may be. I will report back on as many of these books as I can. We have a thriller. I have a signpost event history of China. We have a new book about the role of fundamentalist Christian religion in American politics. Another in a series of books like that. We have a big, luscious historical novel that starts with the Russian Revolution and sprawls all across the 20th century, following one woman who changes identities to suit the times. We have The Operator, a very interesting sounding fiction debut set in small town Ohio, in which a woman, an operator for Ma Bell, listens in on a conversation and hears the very last thing she wants to hear. And what does it mean? And what can she do about it? And a mystery novel. This is Revolver Road. It's the third book in a series about this character, but I'm going to dive right in and see. These are all March. I'll be dealing with all of these in March and a whole bunch of other books in March. Oh my God, March is such a huge month for publishing, and I've been asking around about that, and a lot of people have told me that one of the reasons why we're going to see a little imbalance in the numbers of books coming out in various months in the U.S. calendar is because of the election. Is publishers are looking at their books and thinking, well, we don't want anything coming out in November. November is ordinarily a killer month for books. And a lot of people are thinking, well, not then, because the country's going to have other things on its mind then. We shall see. One way or another, March is a monster of a month. So I'll be getting to these. These are some finished copies for the month and a whole bunch of other things. So we'll do another new arrivals video soon. And, of course, when we're on the subject, I would love to hear from you. Are these actually valuable? I've heard from dozens and dozens of you, because, like I said, I leave my email down below, so feel free to email me about anything. I've heard from dozens and dozens of you saying, yes, the new arrivals on the mail halls are very useful. Mail halls tend to be well in the future. New arrivals, I tend to scale a little bit closer to right at this moment. But I've had dozens and dozens of emails from people saying, when I see a video like that of yours that's posted in my feed, I open my Goodreads before I start the video, because I don't annotate the titles down below. I'm often told that. I'm often quietly or not so quietly pointed out to me that I don't annotate anything. So you have to have your Amazon wish list or a document or your Goodreads open, because you can't just copy it from my show notes. Oh my, I really should fix that. But I've had a number of people tell me, yes, this is very valuable. So I'm just going to keep doing it. If it gets tedious, let me know. It's never going to get tedious for me. As you can tell, even in this video, these things just endlessly fascinate me. The U.S. publishing seasons are Christmas every day for me. My enthusiasm for this stuff never goes away. I am naturally pruriently curious about the UK publishing season or the publishing season in Germany, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I've made it my goal to be responsible, myself as a reader, for the U.S. publishing calendar in all the major houses in a dozen major categories. I consider that sufficient. I'm not going to go elsewhere. I'm not going to go elsewhere unless something drastically tempts me. Like, for instance, this new edition of Michelet's French Revolution. Oh, in a 2-volume box set. New. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. I will wait. If somebody translates into English, then it will show up in the American season, and then it will be in my bailiwick. But I'm not going to go to Amazon France and buy that thing. I'm not going to do it. Anyway, I'm just going to keep going with the new arrivals, is what I'm saying. So I'm going to wrap this up for now. I hope some of these were of interest to you, and I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.